So today I'll be talking about my top 10 metal albums of 1989. Of course, many albums to choose from, but I decided to go with these 10 here. And my top 10 will be in no particular order. Keep in mind, this is just my personal list. You don't have to agree with it, but feel free to let me know your top 10 for 1989 in the comment section below. Let's go ahead and get started. Starting off with one of the Canadian Big Four of thrash, Annihilator, with their album Alice in Hell. Often considered their best, or at least one of their best, and I'd say it's definitely their best. Never Neverland would probably be in close second, but yeah, this album, maybe one of the best thrash metal debut albums out there. I mean, of course, you do have one of their big songs on here, maybe their biggest song, Alice in Hell, but you have other really great songs on here, like Human Excesticide, which is probably one of the fastest songs on here. Burns Like a Buzzsaw Blade, probably top 5 Annihilator song for me. Wicked Mystic and Welcome to Your Death are also really good songs on the album. But yeah, definitely an album worth check it out if you haven't heard it. And Jeff Waters, definitely an underrated guitar player, definitely really skillful guitarist. But let's go ahead and move on to something a little bit different, moving into the world of prog metal with Fate's Warning, Perfect Symmetry. Now, when you ask people what their favorite Fate's Warning album is, you're definitely going to get multiple answers. Some people might point to Parallels or Awaken the Guardian or maybe No Exit, but personally I go with this one. Really dig this album a lot. I mean, some of my favorites in here are probably Part of the Machine, which I'd say is one of their best album openers, but I think you also get one of their best album closers too. Maybe their best album closer, and that is Nothing Left to Say. Really like that song. And Static X really shows that how great Ray Alder was at the time with hitting those higher notes. And you also do have one of their big ballads on here, Through Different Eyes, which is another highlight for me on the album. At Fate's Hands is also pretty good too, but yeah, all around, really great album from Fate's Warning. Now we're moving to one of the German Big Four of thrash, Creator, with their album Extreme Aggression. And definitely one of the band's best, I'd say. I mean, Coma of Souls would be at the top for me, but this album and Terrible Certainty would probably fight for my second favorite. But you do have one of their big songs on here, Betrayer, which is definitely one of the big highlights on the album, I'd say. But the title track is another one of my favorites on here. Same with No Reason to Exist. Love Us or Hate Us is also pretty good. Don't Trust is a song that I recently re-listened to, and I think that song is actually kind of underrated. But yeah, all around, definitely a really great album. And now we're moving to the world of industrial metal with one of the pioneers of the genre, and that is Ministry with The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste. Definitely a pretty good album. I don't think it's their best. Psalm 69 would probably take that spot for me personally, but Land of Rape and Honey would probably be second for me, and then this album and Filth Pig would probably fight for my number 3 spot. But yeah, you do have some of their best known songs on here, like Thieves and Burning Inside. But yeah, I also have other really great songs on here, like Never Believe, So What, and Test, which is definitely one of the more unique songs on here. But yeah, definitely again, one of the band's best. And if you haven't heard this album, definitely check it out, especially if you like industrial metal. But now we're moving to some death metal, some old school death metal with Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness. And yeah, definitely one of the band's best. When it comes to when people pick their favorite Morbid Angel album, it's either this one or Covenant. I personally go with Covenant, but this would definitely be in close second. I mean, definitely a really strong debut album, I'd say. I mean, some of my favorites on here are probably Immortal Rights, Maze of Torment, which is maybe my favorite song on here. Really like that song a lot. Chapel of Ghouls is also really good. Visions from the Dark Side. Evil Spells, which is definitely one of the band's best album closers, I'd say. But yeah, Altars of Madness, definitely a classic. And continuing with death metal, we got Obituary with Slowly We Rot. This band, with this album, definitely shows the more raw side, and some of my favorites, Internal Bleeding. Of course, you do have the title track, which is the big song on here. Till Death is also really good. I really like what John Tardy is doing vocally in Gates to Hell. Definitely one of his best performances on the album, I'd say. Godly Beings, which if I remember correctly is one of the shorter songs on here. I really like that song actually. Probably one of my favorites on here. But yeah, definitely another really great debut album. And when it comes to Obituary, Cause of Death and World Demise would probably be my favorites, but Slowly We Rot and Incomplete would probably be, would not be all that far behind from those two albums, I'd say. Again, definitely a really great debut album. But let's move on to some thrash, and with the album Years of Decay by Overkill. Often considered their best or one of their best. Horoscope is probably my favorite Overkill album, but this would probably be my second favorite, and then Taking Over would probably be number 3. But yeah, this album is definitely great. I mean, produced by Terry Date, someone that has worked with many bands that I do enjoy. I know he went on to work with Deftones and Pantera, just to name a couple other bands. I think he also did an album with Unearthed too, In the Eyes of Fire, if I got the album right. But anyways, back to Overkill. Yeah, this album's definitely great. Time to Kill is definitely one of their best album openers. You do have one of their big songs on here, Elimination. You also have Evil Never Dies, which low-key kind of feels like Overkill's Damage Inc., you can maybe say. At least that's the overall vibe that I get from that song, but still probably one of my favorites on the album. You see Overkill tap into some Doom a little bit with Playing with Spiders / Skull Crusher. And you do have the title track, The Years of Decay, which shows Overkill showing off their more melodic side, which doesn't happen a lot, but I do really enjoy the title track too. But yeah, all around, definitely a thrash metal classic. And yeah, Bobby Blitz, his vocals aren't going to be for everybody, but I personally like him. Definitely unique for sure, but again, not for everybody, but I do like him. Now we're moving to Sepultura with Beneath the Remains, which is probably a top 5 for me in 1989. I mean, this album front to back is just excellent, and definitely one of the band's best. I mean, Arise would be at the top for me, but this would probably be my second favorite, with Chaos ID probably being third. And the longest time, Chaos ID was actually my number 1 favorite, but eventually it would go to Arise. But yeah, Beneath the Remains, definitely one of the band's best, and I'm sure many fans would agree with me on that. And this would be the second album with Andreas Kisser. But yeah, some of my favorites on here, the title track, Inner Self, which is one of the big songs on here. Mass Hypnosis, honestly, a top 10 Sepultura song for me. Not a song that's talked about as much as maybe some other songs on here, but I really like that song a lot. Slaves of Pain's also really good. Same with Lobotomy. But yeah, the album does have some really good deep cuts too. But yeah, all around, really great album. And now I'll be moving to Testament, one of the best thrash metal bands outside of the Big Four, in my opinion. And we were talking about Practice What You Preach, and this is actually my favorite Testament album. I know some people might point to maybe the New Order and maybe even the Legacy, but again, definitely has to be at the top for me when it comes to Testament. But title track, one of their more well-known songs, definitely a highlight on the album. Perilous Nation, another highlight. Time Is Coming, one of the deeper cuts on the album. I really like that song, definitely one of my favorites on here. You do have one of their ballads with, of course, the ballad. And Greenhouse Effect is a song that's going to be one of my favorites on the album. But yeah, the production kind of reminds me of the production on Injustice for All a little bit. But yeah, all around, definitely, probably, maybe a top 5 of 1989 for me. Maybe, but all around, I really dig this album a lot. And now for the final album for this video, we got Nothing Face by Voivod. Their most commercially successful album. It also even made it into the Billboard 200. And yeah, definitely my favorite Voivod album. And this is another band where if you ask a fan what their favorite Voivod album is, you're going to get different answers, multiple answers. Some I'm sure will point to this one, but some might point to Dimension Hatros or Killing Technology. But yeah, this album's definitely great. This album sees the band lean more towards the more prog metal side of them. I mean, of course, you do have some thrashy moments here and there within the album, but it's definitely not as fast or thrashy as some of the previous work. But even with all that said, this album's definitely my favorite. I mean, The Unknown Knows, definitely a top 5 Voivod song for me. Title track's also really good. You do have the cover Astronomy Domain on here. I do enjoy the original too, but I think Voivod did a really good cover of that song. X-Ray Mirror, definitely another highlight for me on the album. Stay with Into My Hypercube, which is definitely one of my favorites when it comes to the second half. But yeah, all around, really great album. And if you like thrash or prog, definitely give this album a listen if you haven't heard it. But yeah, those are my top 10 metal albums of 1989. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree or disagree with some of my picks here in terms of what are the top 10 metal albums of 1989 and all the good stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment and like, subscribe. Have a nice day, and take care.